Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Student Body Right USC podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, and I am podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. PORSBR is my Twitter handle. And we have Evan Desai, a contributor to our show. He comes on every once in a while to talk a little USC Trojan football. I want to thank everybody for listening to the show in the Bahamas, out there in Watts, Oklahoma. I didn't know there was a Watts, Oklahoma. But it's Watts, Oklahoma. And also San Diego, California. And what else we got here? We got what's the I want to shout out? Los Angeles, California, of course, and then New York City. And then what else we got? One more is let's go to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Listen to the Student Body Right in Washington, Student Body Right USC podcast. So last time we spoke, it was a search for a defensive coordinator. Now they have a defensive coordinator, and that defensive coordinator is D'anton Lynn. I gotta hear somebody pronounce his name right. I don't know if it's D'anton or D'anton Lynn, but I know that he's going to be the defensive coordinator. Already taking pictures on social media with the players. He's there. What were your thoughts about this hire when you heard about it?
It was kind of complicated. I remember a couple episodes ago that I was on here. We have mentioned what I think it's pronounced D'anton Lynn. That's how I've heard it. I don't know if that's exactly
D'anton. Okay, D'anton.
D'anton. That's what I assume it is. But we have brought him up, and I said, I was very interested in him. You kind of brought up a great point, though, in that he's only been a defensive coordinator for 1 year. And so I kind of, ever since you said that, I've been kind of gradually not as excited about it. I remember the last episode I was on, we talked about it again, and I'm certainly not, necessarily disliking the hire or anything like that. I think it's a good hire, but I've just gradually throughout this search, I just really started to realize like how important I think experience would be. So while I think this is a good hire because of how well he did in his opportunity, you got to do well in the opportunities you get, and he did great, objectively great last year at UCLA. And again, he's got the NFL pedigree, play with some guys who are like for us to pick up as position coaches actually, in his NFL days. But so I think it's definitely a good hire. But is it an A-level hire? No, nothing against him. But I just, I want to see more than 1 year as a defensive coordinator.
I think that the way I look at it too is I think they got a guy who is probably ascending. So I mean, if it all works out, I think a couple of years goes by and he ends up getting a head coaching job somewhere else. For me, I mean, Coach B was on the show and he doesn't like the move. I think that it's a hard situation because there's only a couple of people who actually, maybe want to leave their situations, and they're probably in losing situations. Like Nebraska's the guy who I read more and more about was Tony White, the defensive coordinator for Nebraska. I wanted him, but and like it's kind of suspicious that all of a sudden he got a raise this week because he has experience, he has California ties, and he's going into the Big Ten. So I understand that part of it. Why they didn't? He basically was like, "Hey, I might leave for this job if you don't give me a raise," and they gave him a raise. But somebody got to be willing to go. Like you can want Manny Diaz, you can want Dave Aranda, but if those guys don't want to leave their situations or they can't leave their situations, you can't get them. I think it makes sense. I think it's a guy who could be possibly be an ascending coach. When he lacks in experience, I do think that he gains from the stops in the NFL with the Bills, with the Jets, with the Chargers. His father is Anthony Lynn, the former Charger head coach. The Ravens experience is where he got his where he worked with the safeties. And I think one nugget I keep forgetting that I keep forgetting to bring up is he got hired as of February of last year or February of this year. That's actually pretty I mean, I know it helps to have Latu, but like you still have to. He's only one person out of 10 you're playing. You have to get everybody in sync. And I think him taking the job over that late kind of says a lot to me. I'm like, damn, like he took over that late and he still was able to get them to play together. Now, some folks had said, hey, look who they played, but once you get into that stuff, it's like, I mean, come on, like, yeah, I mean, you only can play who's on the schedule.
No, I don't buy the look we played. I mean, they played a top, 4 offense in the country in USC, and they held them to their biggest dud of the season. I mean, that's right there is definitely a feather in his cap as far as last season went. Like you mentioned, that's crazy. It was February. I mean, that means within 7 months,
Yeah,
he got a defense that was outside, I believe, the top 90. Already playing like a top defense in the country, top were they 16th in scoring defense and 11th in total defense? I know it was 11th in total defense.
and they were, I think they led the nation in sacks or something like that, and then they also were second or first against the run. So like, I mean, that's impressive. Like to me, I forgot to bring it up earlier, but when I heard he got hired in February of this year, I'm like, damn, that's pretty impressive.
No, yeah, and I think like the most impressive part about that is something that, I mean, it's true. Like that, a lot of those guys that were on the defense at UCLA this year were there last year. There was no big talent upgrade. Talent upgrade, let's say that did happen, that would be impressive on Lynn's part that he was able to bring guys in, but that didn't happen. There was no talent upgrade really with that UCLA defense from last year, this year, and they just absolutely skyrocketed. So, that definitely is a testament to how good he is. And it's like, obviously like in the front seven, I mean, the Murphy twins are good. Latu's good.
Yeah.
Jake Toy, I think, is pretty good. But, they really don't have anybody in the secondary. Well, I shouldn't say they don't have anybody. There's no, prime NFL talent in the secondary. They don't have a Latu in the secondary. They don't have
100%
in the secondary. So the fact that he was able to develop that talent into being really good college players says a lot, and especially if you see guys like a Kalen Bullock, for instance, coming back, it's going to be a big deal that he gets to work with a guy like D'anton Lynn, because I mean he was an All-American last 2022 with a guy like Alex Grinch. Yes. And there's still a lot of talent in the secondary. It hasn't worked out because Orlando and Grinch are just terrible at developing talent, but it's true that there are a lot of 4 and 5-star talent if you count Monty Jackson. He is 5-star talent. There's still a lot of talent for him to develop. So I think it's a favorable situation for him and, of course, for USC.
And then, I mean, that's going to lead to him getting a big time job if that's in the cards for him. Because let's be honest, like, you turn around USC to be a really good defense, then people are going to take notice as well. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think I would say it's and to use a baseball analogy, I said it's a doubles. It's not a home run; it's a double with the potential to be a triple or a home run. Because I think when he has the experience of the background, but now he has to show he can do it one more time. And do it one more time. And I think with him being 34 years old, he's 34. So like if he continues this ascension as a coordinator, especially going into a high profile Big Ten moment, they go even if they lose 20-21 at Michigan, in week 3 next year, that would still be, Alex Grinch is losing that game 45 to 32, like, what I'm saying? So it makes a lot of sense as far as that goes.
No, absolutely. And I think that, this is an opportunity where USC can, if they can improve the defense substantially, they're not going to improve it to what UCLA had last year. You can't assume that. But if they can improve it to a defense that's given up, even like 25 points a game, that wouldn't be good. Yeah. But even if you're in that position with Lincoln Riley running the show and being able to develop another quarterback, which I think he's going to be really good with again. I think the offense will probably take a step back, but probably still be like a 35-plus point offense. You're going to put yourself in position to easily make a top 12 spot for a 12-team playoff. Just see what you can do and potentially contend for a natty.
The only guy who I thought maybe, and he probably didn't want to leave the South, was Glenn Schumann. Right. He is the co-defensive coordinator with Georgia with Bill Muschamp. Mm-hmm. I think that would be the only guy who I would say, okay, maybe they missed on or whatever. But I mean, you can present the opportunity, but these guys have to want to come. And it can't be all about Doe, because if it's just about Doe, then you don't want that. You don't want that guy. You can kind of read through the lines as far as that goes. So UCLA does. So USC has UCLA's former DC. And that's D'anton Lynn. running the show here as well. Transfer portal. Oklahoma fans can't blame us for this one. I mean, Dylan Gabriel transfers from Oklahoma to Oregon. That one shocked. That one shocked me that he was even in the portal. Oklahoma is a really good team. They're going to the SEC next year. That kind of surprised me, but like you never know what goes on behind the scenes, and that Nike money is real. So he's out. Speaking of the transfer portal, what kind of targets do you see? Are you hearing about, or who are some of the guys you want to see USC go after?
I think this is going to sound obvious, but I want them to go after positions of need, particularly on the defensive line. And I just bring that up because I saw Lincoln Riley met with Will Howard, and it's like I don't really think we need another quarterback. Like this might surprise people, but I think if Will Howard transferred to USC, I don't think he would start, and I think he would lose the backup job as well. I think he would be the third best quarterback coming into next season, if he went to USC. Now, obviously, right now he has a lot more experience than both Nelson and Moss. But I think if you give Moss and Nelson another offseason, another time to be in the weight room, another time to learn the offense during spring camp, another time to really get quality reps in the fall, I think they would both beat out Will Howard actually. So I'm a little bit confused at his meeting with him. I know some fans are excited about it. I just guess I personally wasn't one of them. And I think that when it's really going to come down to defensive line recruiting, when it just comes to the future trajectory of this team. And if you want to use the portal to try to expedite your recruiting, I think that's a position you got to go after. We've missed on some guys in the past, especially last year on the defensive line. Now we did land Bear Alexander, and hopefully now we have a coach that can develop him. But just last year, January was not necessarily the best time for USC when it came to recruiting. You were seeing a lot of recruits flip, and they were all flipping to Oregon. You saw guys who were supposed to get them, Mateo Ungole, Roger Pleasant going to Oregon. I think defensive line recruiting in particular is going to be really important. And as you probably saw, Colin Cowherd claims that we're going to have an elite defensive line recruiter coming in or whatever. Oh, and they're going to spend the money. I don't know if you saw that, but he teased that on Twitter.
So that's that's going to be that's probably going to be the Texas A&M defensive lineman that everybody's teasing to going to USC as well. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, he says wild, foolish things, Colin Cowherd. But like I remember when he said Ben Simmons was going to be the league in the NBA. How that work out? But when it comes to he said that Ben Simmons was going to be the league, like he's going to be the guy who runs the NBA basically, and that which is hilarious. But when it comes to SC stuff, he knows a couple heads, so I will give him that. And like you think about it, like you get another. Like the whole thing starts with the pass rush and your ability to get into the opponent's backfield. You get a guy like Bear Alexander. You get a guy with Jalil Muhammad already said he's staying. You get another defensive lineman. Romello Height hasn't said anything about it. Did Corey Foreman enter the portal? I think
he did not yet.
He did not yet. So that's the one thing I'm thinking about too. Is like, what if possibly? Could you imagine if he actually got something out of the 5-star? Because I mean, he went from being on the heavier side to the lighter side, and people were coming after Benny Wiley, but Benny Wiley is only going to try to build their bodies in the vision of the coordinators and the head coach. If
he's doing what they tell him to do,
exactly. If Alex Grinch says, "Hey, I want sleeker, leaner, like quick twitch guys," that's what he's gonna do. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's Benny Wiley's. Benny Wiley's not gonna say, "No, we're going to Big Ten. We're not doing that." Like, you know what I mean? Like that's not his job. He'll lose his job that way. So, but I do think the one thing I'm happy about with getting Lynn is that you won't see Jalil Muhammad and Romello Height dropping in fucking coverage. Like all the time, dude. Like, I'm like this dude. I mean, so many times I've seen Jalil Muhammad, like early in the season, he's rushing the passer, doing his thing, and then I'm Romello Height, same thing, then dropping in coverage makes no sense.
No, yeah, for sure. And it sucks because like Jamil Muhammad is one of the few players who actually like objectively had a very good season this year.
Yeah.
I mean, he had double-digit tackles for loss. Like he actually played well. And that you can't really say that about many guys. I mean, you can say it about Kalen, Christian Roland Wallace.
It's sad to lose Christian. It's sad to lose Christian Roland Wallace, unfortunately, because I feel like if he had this coordinator this year, you would even see even better play from Christian Roland Wallace. He really played well in one-on-one
For sure.
coverage. Yeah, for sure. So let's see here. Walter Nolan was the name that I keep hearing. Walter Nolan, that the Trojans are trying to get. Dylan Gabriel. I mean, it would have been funny if they got Dylan Gabriel, but I think I'm good with that one. Everybody's after this Joby Slackman out of Penn, which is hilarious that everybody's trying to get him. I get an Ivy Leaguer as far as that goes. So that's good to see. I mean, that's interesting to see. But I do think you're seeing. I think he knows the importance of defense. I think he knows, and for him to get a title, or come close to a title, it's going to be. I mean, like they have to make. And I know it's a long way away, and we'll see how the team develops roster wise. But this will be year 3. He can't not make the playoffs 3 years in a row, especially now when it's going to be 12 teams.
No, for sure. And I think that we're going to find out a lot about how good this team can be once the staff is finalized. And I would caution basically everybody listening to this to actually look at who your source is when you're talking about, or when you're thinking about who USC can get, because there's all kinds of crazy ass rumors happening right now about transfer portal players, about the coaching cycle. I mean, how many different names were rumored to USC for the defensive coaching job? And like, is there any basis behind any of it? Like, we were hearing like all these names, and like, but none of these were Bruce Feldman reporting it. None of it was Pete Thamel reporting it. Like, I think we need to make sure we're looking at the right names, because like, for instance, like, I mean, like both of us, I mean, you would want Elijah Robinson from Texas A&M as a D-line coach, right?
Yeah, but
yeah, I would too. So the problem is, though, I'm seeing like, so I did see this report. This happened yesterday. Who's his name? Okay, so he's the executive editor of, what is this? TexAgs.com. He's got 74.2K followers on Twitter. He says, breaking, just got word that A&M D-line coach Elijah Robinson is head to Syracuse as a new Orange defensive coordinator. E-Rob's first crack over the defense, so a big step for the longtime Aggie assistant. And then Shotgun Spratling of USCFootball.com says, a potential big-time addition to the USC staff, Elijah Robinson will indeed leave Texas A&M, but his destination will be Syracuse. So none of these rumors seem to make sense to me, because I'm hearing all these rumors, and I'm seeing that Elijah Robinson's going to Syracuse, and then I'm hearing Tony White's coming to USC, Glenn Schumann's coming to USC, Jeff Collins. Then it was D'anton Lynn at one point, then it was Jim Leonard at another point, and that they're going to empty the bag for Jim Leonard. Like, I don't understand any of this. So I think that we really need to figure out what this staff's going to be, but I'm just worried that we won't be able to figure out what this staff's going to be, because Lincoln Riley likes to keep things close to the vest, and I don't necessarily blame him in this situation where people are just tossing out crazy ass rumors, you know?
Yeah, question about that. I think I do think that I think that he probably, I mean, I think Leonard was, obviously you had to talk to Leonard, but I think Leonard wants to go to the NFL. But I do think this is like when all these staffs get formed, whether it's the NFL or it's the or all the college jobs get done, if he's still sitting there out there, doesn't that say something about Jim Leonard? I mean, what's wrong with Jim? Why is nobody hiring Jim Leonard? Like, I know people want to, that was our first choice. I want Jim Leonard, but like, think about it for a second. Like, he's not on a staff right now. He's an analyst right now. He's not really on the staff right now. So you can be too picky sometimes on jobs, and like, there's not that many jobs. And all of a sudden, when you're not a hot name, like, that can go away really quickly. I want to go back to Will Howard. So what is your biggest trepidation about Will Howard? Because fans are kind of split on Will Howard. I would say my only thing is that that's the one position that I leave Lincoln. I let Lincoln just do his thing. I ignore his thoughts on quarterbacks, because I know that he usually does a good job with quarterbacks. His offenses and his quarterbacks usually score points, and then they haven't been really the issue as far as Lincoln Riley.
Oh, that's definitely true. And so it's a situation where, no matter what the quarterback is going to be next year, I definitely expect the quarterback position to really produce next year. It's just that when I'm looking at a guy like Will Howard, I look at I mean, his highlights are cool. I admit his highlights are cool, but at the same time, like, if you look at his numbers, you see some accuracy issues, 61.3% completion percentage, and that was his career high. Now, to be fair, he didn't get a ton of reps in the past, but I mean, he had plenty of chances in the past, and he's just 61.3% completion percentage is pretty bad, to be honest. 7.4 yards an attempt, pretty bad this year. 7.5 adjusted yards per attempt. It's not very good again. Now 33 total touchdowns and 10 picks. That's not bad. But it's just like, I'm looking at the guys that we have. We're talking about Miller Moss was a top 12 quarterback recruit in his class, high-end 4-star guy. Malachi Nelson, some services had him as the number 1 overall player in his class. I just think the talent from those two guys, especially the talent from Malachi Nelson, really stands out over Will Howard, who is a 4-star transfer prospect. He's better than what his high school rating was, 3-star.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that he has the ceiling that the other two guys have. And it's not to say he doesn't have a high ceiling, but Malachi Nelson can do just about anything when he's really on his game. And as far as Miller Moss goes, this is going to sound weird, but he's actually outperformed Will Howard when on the field. Now, of course, you have to take it with a grain of salt because he hasn't gotten the quality of reps that Will Howard has got. Will Howard was a starting quarterback. But I'm just saying what I've seen from Miller Moss on the field has been really impressive. The numbers he has have been really impressive. And I understand it's not a ton of reps, but it equals about like 2 full games if you count all the passing attempts and rushing attempts. I haven't seen anything to turn me off of the idea of Miller Moss being the starting quarterback and USC contending that way. And same with Malachi Nelson. I know he didn't play. He only played 1 game last year, only threw a couple passes. But when you look at the type of player he was in high school, if we're talking about highlights, everyone's showing Will Howard highlights. Go peep Malachi Nelson highlights, honestly, from high school. Even look at Miller Moss highlights in high school, So I would rather go with the guys who know the offense now. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I would say the only thing, number one, obviously I'll leave the quarterback thing to Lincoln Riley. I would say one thing would be with Malachi Nelson, he didn't even dress the last couple of games. Like we'll have to say, I don't know if the injury he has some injury issues. Don't know the extent of those. This is not the NFL. They don't tell you nothing in college when people are hurt. You know what I'm saying? So as far as that goes, which was a little bit annoying, but that's what they do. And then Miller Moss, he sees Miller Moss every day. He knows where he's going with his program. So maybe Miller Moss. And plus, if K-State, if you're going to play weather games, might as well get a guy who's played some weather, who could play in some weather games as well too. So it should be interesting to see how that goes. But I think what happens is Moss is kind of showing everything what he can do. They bring in Howard for a season. Then next year is Malachi Nelson, and then they have the other kid. I forgot the Juju. Will come in as a freshman to back him up.
All right.
Juju Lewis. Yeah. So I think that's kind of how it's gonna go as far as that goes. But we do have other news real quick. Let me see here. We got Kalen Bullock. We have no word on. Muhammad is coming back. Marshawn Lloyd is going to the Senior Bowl. So is Brandon Rice. Mason Cobb has an invitation. We haven't heard about anything about that yet. If he's actually going to go, Darwin Barlow is gone. The entire backfield is gone except for Quentin Joyner. So you can make that change. I know that they're looking at everybody's suspecting that the Cal running back will come over and transfer to USC, which would be, he's good. So, you know how that goes as far as that goes. So anything, it would be really, I think the cool thing about it is, and he's hinting that he might come back, but it would be really big if Kalen Bullock came back for this defense. On that back end. I think seeing the quarterbacks that Trojans are going to play, there could be a lot of INTs waiting for him in the Big Ten.
For sure. And I want to correct myself. I said Julian Lewis will be the quarterback. My fault for anyone listening. In 2025, correct? It's 2025.
Yeah. So yeah, and most 2026. Yeah. And most freshmen don't play. Most freshmen don't play year one. So he would hit the weights and get ready for his sophomore campaign most likely.
Yeah, for sure. And, going back to Kalen Bullock, sorry to change the subject for a little bit, but Kalen Bullock, I think he should stay just in the sense that I think he hasn't really tapped in to what he really can do despite him playing really well because of, unfortunately, the situation, really just the awful coaching he's received his entire tenure here at USC. But he continues to get better. Maybe you could say he didn't get better this year. He certainly didn't get worse. And what I mean by the fact that he hasn't tapped into his potential is that how many times did we see Kalen Bullock having to try to chase after people in the end zone even? on pretty much seemingly every scoring play, every passing scoring play. And it sucks because, you're like, like who's supposed to, which corner was supposed to be here, which back or which safety. All we kept seeing was Kalen Bullock trying to chase after somebody because someone blew an assignment.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
like, it's a situation where you never want to be at the scene of a crime, but it was so unbelievably obvious that Kalen Bullock was the only one even anywhere remotely close. And he was, playing his assignment and then trying to make up for somebody allowing someone to be wide open. Like it happened seemingly several times a drive, honestly. And so it's just like, if he was actually put in a situation where he could do him and he could play his role, they didn't have to try to run around trying to pick up for a bunch of his teammates that seemed to not know what to do at all, seemed not know the defense, seemed not know the fundamentals, seemed to be scared to take certain angles and to try to actually take on plays. I think he could really improve, and I think that's when his film's going to look crazy. So I think he should stay. It would be huge if he does. Honestly, I think a lot of these guys in defense are going to stay. Obviously, Muhammad already announced he's staying. Mason Cobb seemed to hint that he was staying, but we don't really know for sure. I just don't think these guys are actually going to have the type of quality film they could have if they had another year. And even if Dan Lynn's not able to turn this around all fast, like it's still going to be better than what we had with Alex Grinch and then Odom and Sean Nua.
Kalen Bullock looked like a lot of times looked like the goalie in any like English Premier when the defensive players like are in the wrong spot. He's yelling at everybody because everybody but like they're always. I mean, listen, I'm not sure what his philosophy was, but it was horrible. Caleb Williams is not playing in the Holiday Bowl 27th of December. I'll be looking to try to cover that for you guys. So hopefully that falls through. And then they play Louisville 5:00 at Petco Park, where the home of the Padres. And he's not going to play in that game, so that kind of hints to what we think that he's going to go into the draft. We'll see who else doesn't play in that game, but I mean, I would think that if you're coming back to USC next year, you're going to play in that game. Lincoln Riley also talked about in press conference about changes, about weight room, about hitting in practice, all those things like that. All things that this guy named Alex Grinch didn't want to do, but I think Mr. Lynn wants to do those things. So a lot to go over, lot to talk about in the future with USC coming up. So it should be interesting to see what happens in the transfer portal. I think Howard's coming. I don't think he flew to Manhattan for no reason. I think Howard's coming. I think Howard's definitely coming. I think he'll be the quarterback next year. With a pretty nice NIL deal. Favorite Caleb Williams moment.
Favorite Caleb Williams moment. I would say the first rushing touchdown against Notre Dame in 2022 when he basically was just trotting backwards to the end zone, talking shit to the Irish. That was my favorite Caleb Williams moment. That was his Heisman moment.
Yeah. I think that was one. There was one play in the loss to Utah where he was scrambling a little bit and then he threw a dot to Mario Williams on the right sideline. I thought by all accounts he was throwing the ball away. And it was Mario Williams just came down out of nowhere, like he was like almost like a punt, and he just caught that thing on the sideline. I thought it was one of the best throws I've ever seen in my life. So, listen, Caleb's gonna do what he wants to do. I think the Patriots should not waste their pick because I don't think he's playing in New England. I think that's one of the one teams where he might just be like, I'm good. I really don't see Caleb and Belichick. I just don't see that together. And holy matrimony. I don't really see that one as far as that goes. Anything else before we head out about USC, transfer portal or defensive staff, defensive head coach, defensive coordinator, anything like that?
No, I think that it was sometimes I can feel a little bit disappointed to really kind of like get excited about this team next year because I was really excited coming into this year and it just did not work out at all. But, I think that we have a chance to kind of see, how much heart this team has when they play a bowl game. I understand that it's not the bowl game you want to play in. But
they gotta win. They gotta win this. They gotta win one. They gotta win one of these bowl games.
I think that it's definitely a game that you can really show a lot. You can start to build momentum really for next year. Obviously, of course, on the defense side of the ball, because I assume Dan Lynn will be the defense coordinator for the game. And then also on offense, just being able to, put Miller Moss in game action. Kind of figure out how his players going to react to that. or excuse me, how his teammates going to react to that. And if you're the offensive line, really try to build some momentum towards next year and show what you can do against a quality opponent. I think this is, if you're going to go with the Holiday Bowl, I think this is the type of team you want to play. A Louisville team that can play, but that you do have more talent than you have every opportunity to beat them. You can see what you have in defensive coordinator. Not going to have a ton of opportunity there because you got to rebuild the roster and, have an offseason or anything, but you have a couple weeks here of practice, so make the most of it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see if some of these guys who are maybe headed to the Senior Bowl will suit up for one last time. All right, thank you for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. And that sweatshirt is USC fire right there. I give you that one. I give you that one. All right, take care, brother.
Yeah, of course, Dwayne. Peace out.